Genesis. Elijah. A name that means my Lord is Jah. The Lord is the I am who I am. Elijah was born to middle-class immigrant parents in the mid-70s. His parents left Egypt in order to begin a new life. He came shortly after their move to Canada. Born on the first day of the Coptic New Year, the 1st of Taut, which coincides with September 11th. Little did Elijah know that the day that marked his entrance into existence would be a day that would forever change his life. The 1st of Taut also marks the Coptic feast of the Nairouz, the Feast of the Martyrs. The Coptic people have a complicated history. The Coptic people, said Elijah's father George, have been persecuted for 18 of the 20 centuries. First, it was the Romans, then the Greeks, then the Muslims. We have had no peace. We have had the blood of the martyrs fill the streets. George and his wife Sally had experienced their own share of persecution as university students in their days in Egypt. They never did tell Elijah what happened to them, but they would tell stories of professors failing their students simply because they were Christian. Stories of the inability of Coptic people in Egypt to build churches or even to fix a single toilet in the church without seeking governmental approval. Stories of being kicked out of stores and being refused service at restaurants were the norm at the dinner table. "Dad," said 5-year-old Elijah, "did that happen to you?" "No, it didn't. But my neighbor's nephew was failed simply for being Christian. It was horrible. He had to redo his last year of engineering. There was nothing he can do. It was horrible." George and Sally were proud to be Coptic. They instilled this in young Elijah. But it was always a mystery to Elijah, even at a young age, how proud his parents were to be members of the Church of the Martyrs, and why they escaped from persecution and wanted to come to the land of the better life. But for 5-year-old Elijah, this paradox would have to be buried into the depth of his soul until the day it would erupt and change the landscape of his life. For now, Elijah just trusted that his parents were always right. As you know, children would rather believe they are wrong than ever imagine their parents to be wrong. And so George, Sally, and little Elijah pursued the better life. For the Coptic people in the diaspora, there were only 2 institutions that existed: the school and the church. And for many, that was the order. This was true for Elijah's highly educated parents. Both George and Sally had burned many candles before many icons for the sake of little Elijah, so he could begin to speak. The first words that Elijah ever spoke, besides the unintelligible cooing of a baby, were Jah in reference to himself, or maybe it was in reference to God. He spoke for the first time at the age of 4. Before that, Elijah lived a deep, deep silence. Poor George and Sally were devastated, fearing for the worst, that their only son would be unable to speak for the rest of his life, that he would not be able to become the doctor or the engineer that they had dreamt he would become. They fasted Wednesdays and Fridays faithfully. Lent, Apostles' Fast, St. Mary's Fast, Advent Fast. All of those days, George and Sally were vegan, faithfully vegan, reading the ingredients on labels vegan. "Sally, is whey powder vegan?" "Sally, do modified milk ingredients count as milk?" "Shame on you, George. Don't you want little Eli to speak?" "Shame on you for even asking." Every night, George and Sally faithfully stood at the foot of their bed as they prayed the Ikpia, the Coptic Book of the Hours. This small book would become one of Elijah's closest friends. They stood, as their feet were throbbing from a long day of work, and prayed. They always prayed that Elijah would speak. This was their obsession and their only concern. The deep silence was finally broken. One word: Jah. George and Sally hugged and cried for joy, each mumbling prayers of thanksgiving to their patron saints. "It was the blessing of Baba Kyrillos," said George. "No, it was Abu Safin," corrected Sally. "Yula Elijah, say it again." "Yes, say it again." First words are very important. Just as most babies' first words are either mama or dada, their words express a desire to return to their source. This was true for little Elijah, and so ended Elijah's first deep silence.